Welcome back to Taiwan Outlook. Joining us today is Dr. Alex Huang, who is the director of the Graduate Institute of American Studies at Tamkang University. Dr. Huang, we've been talking about the U.S. defense posture in the region. How about Taiwan's defense strategies? As we know that it's so-called effective deterrence and firm defense. Is that a still sound policy in terms of military situation in the region?
Well, by the White Book, defense white paper, I think we still use the same term, that we will have effective deterrence and resolute defense. But the ingredients to facilitate or to support these two terms has been improving. I think Taiwan has no other choice but having a defensive strategy. It's definitely not in our interest to have an offensive defense strategy. But in tactical terms or in operations, any general or admiral would not agree that we take a full defensive posture. We need to prepare that when necessary, we need to use our force proactively. I think Taiwan's defense strategy would have a room for improvement because that two terms has a little bit contradictory. When you invest in the deterrence force and when you invest in the defensive force, it's totally different investment. If our financial capability can support both, that's fine. But if we have limited defense resources, whether we should concentrate on one and put the other one, in the secondary position is very important. I think, as I said, that prevention is very important, and we need a strong defense for that prevention to work.
But in terms of deterrence, some people argue that the best way to deter the PRC is to maintain some sort of offensive weapons, including medium-range missiles, which can target some of the coastal cities and so on. Do you think that's a sound policy?
We all know that in international politics, we said there are two things. That when you throw something at someone, one is counter-value, the other is counter-force. Okay, counter-force means that you hit the military targets or their troops. Counter-value means you hit their citizens or cities. I think Taiwan, even if we think of an offensive capability, is purely counter-force, not counter-value.
That's right.
We are not trying to kill Chinese people in Shanghai or in Hong Kong. We are trying to stop and make sure that the Chinese defense planners understand that if they try to wage assault against Taiwan, that Taiwan has the ability to stop them or disrupt their operational plans. And we need some systems in our hands so can we argue or dissuade the Chinese intention. Prevention, of course, is the best solution. Make sure that the Chinese generals cannot make a decision to attack. And we need some system to persuade them that they should not do that, or otherwise they have to pay a price or the cost would be too high beyond the threshold of their tolerance.
The AMD just finished its annual Huang military exercise. And how do you see this year's exercise? Does this show any special features of this year's exercise?
I think the most important one to me is that previously that we do different events in the military exercise was a separate timeline. It's one after the other. And this year we try to do it all together because I think this is more, to the truth. Because when China attacked Taiwan, they would not wait for another 2 days to throw another missile against Taiwan. Many people had different views about this year's Huang because of through the lens of other reporters or the media. But I have a general principle to look at all these exercises. To me, military exercise is planning. It's a way to verify your doctrine. It's a way to train your troops. It's the way to test your concepts of operations. It's fake. It's not the real war. So we need to find out problems during those exercises.
That's right.
If we have a 100% successful military exercise, and I would be scared as a specialist because I know that when you have 100% performance in military exercise, you must have a lot of problem in the real war.
That's right.
So I think it helped us to understand the shortcomings we had and the rooms to improve and the area that we need to correct.
Yeah. But in terms of defense strategy, Taiwan is now downsizing its military in terms of personnel, and the MND is about to introduce the so-called volunteer system and reduce the time that the young people have to serve in the military. Do you think that match with the overall defense strategy of Taiwan?
Yeah. When I think about the personnel or the numbers in uniform, I thought about remember back in 3 years ago before we had a presidential election, we have the hand-in-hand activity, human chain, right?
Human chain around the island.
Human chain around the island. How many people we need to connect.
Yeah.
Right now we have only 140,000 people in green uniform. That's ground force. It cannot even link from Keelung to Hsinchu. And that tells a new story. The new story that in the future warfare, we do not rely on manpower. It's not counting heads. Probably 300 years ago, we need more people to fight the war. But today is a war with high technology. We need probably less people. We don't need unskilled soldiers to operate the complicated weapon systems. They will kill the system before the enemy shoot at us. So I think this is, we should not get into a debate of numbers. We should look at the efficiency and capability.
But as you said, there will be more complicated weapons, more advanced weapons that will require more time to train the soldiers to use. But by shortening the time that people have to serve in the military, will that hurt the so-called capabilities of the military?
Yeah, but from the service, of course. When you shorten the term limit of the conscript military service, people probably won't have enough time to learn how to shoot with these complicated systems. But when you look at the system again, you probably know that even with 2 years of training, just like 20 years ago, 2 years full-term service, you still cannot operate the system. So in the future, we need to change our minds, change our brains, to understand that what we need to do is to have a longer service term and make sure that our servicemen, more likely voluntary forces, that they can serve 4 years or more. So can they operate the complicated systems. I'm not worried about shortening the term service because most of the manpower are necessary in the high-tech warfare. The more they stay in my barracks, the more difficult that I fight a modern high-tech warfare. So I would limit the service, release the manpower to the society, put them in the reserve, and that will better serve our defense needs.
In addition to military capabilities, political will is also very important in defending our country. But there have been criticisms on Taiwan on that particular issue. The U.S. has picked the so-called arms purchase budget as a way to show that Taiwan does not have the political will. How do you respond to that kind of criticisms?
Well, I would say, number one, political will cannot be tested, especially the will to defend your homeland. Everyone here in Taiwan does not have another place to run. We are surrounded by waters. So I think I told my friends, when they visit Taiwan, I said, unless it is truly tested in time of war, you cannot measure it. Number two, I told them that the will to fight is not does not equal to the term, say, show me the money. Okay, The will to fight depends on that how the people love their own homeland, how people love their own political institutions, how people wanted to sustain its ways of living. And I have no doubt at all that people in Taiwan would not live under a communist rule. They would not tolerate a communist invasion of Taiwan. So I would say beyond the so-called political, gridlock in the legislative yuan, I think if we look at all the polls that we conducted, most of the people support a stronger defense. So we need more professionals. We need an outreach program. We need to get those specialists in and outside MND, get them out, talk to people, inform the public. Some people argue that defense policy will be made in the LY between the negotiations of two different parties. But I still believe that if we can reach out, if we can get to the press, if we can get to the people, get to the communities, I think we can still form a kind of force. Let them speak. And now we have internet. I think they can do their job.
But do you think the MND has done a good job in making the issue known to the public?
Well, they have tried their best, I should say, but I think there are rooms to improve. I think involvement of more people, especially specialists, media, using media, and let the press or the special military correspondent, let them talk to the people. I think more engagement, do not keep a distance from the press, would improve their relationship. Most of people get into understanding of military affairs through the lens of reporters. So I think it is important for the MND to engage with the press and do not fear to shake hands. And I think there are many rooms to improve.
President Chen has committed to increase the defense budget for over 3% of the GDP every year. How do we read that?
Well, it's a pressure to other departments, other ministries. If you talk to the Minister of Finance, he will definitely object that idea. But this is partly react to what the United States has requested, I have to say. But partly because that we have been singled out. Taiwan has been the only country in the entire region that had declining defense budget. We are the country that facing mounting threat, but with a declining defense budget. These are the issues that we need to talk to our people. I think the president is on the right track, that we do need. I personally even think that we should at least 3.2% of the GDP, because we need to invest. There are other very detailed professional debate on different issues. Probably it's not suitable to take it out here. But in general, I have to say that we need to invest in our own security, and there is no cheap defense.
Finally, could you tell us your views about the military balance in the Taiwan Strait in the foreseeable future, maybe by 2020, and the security situation in the region?
I think it's hard to predict everything now, but I would say with certain level of confidence, I don't see a military conflict across the Taiwan Strait. It doesn't mean that we will never have an unintended incident. But I think leaders on both sides of the Taiwan Strait understand that making people happy, get the money into their wallets are the #1 issue. I don't think any side wanted to antagonize the other one. I hope, sincerely hope, that the politicians on both sides of Taiwan Strait would have a heart for their own people.
One last question. There have been arguments about some sort of ceasefire in the Taiwan Strait, or to end the hostility in the region. Do you think there is a possibility for any modus vivendi or even interim agreements between the two sides?
It's hard. It's hard. But there is a possibility, because Taiwan will have a new administration Washington will have a new president, and Hu Jintao is getting into his second term. Who is now in command? I put less hope on the fifth generation because we don't know who they are yet. But Hu Jintao in his second term, should there be a will, should he has a will, we can definitely talk about a kind of arrangement. When we have an agreement to cease the hostilities across the Taiwan Strait, that means the first step that Beijing recognized that Taiwan as an equal partner.
Will Beijing do that?
I think that's their own term. They not only talk about cease of the status of state of hostility, they also copy our terms to talk about peace and stability framework. So I think a modus vivendi, a peace framework can be talked about, and we need time. And probably immediately after the Olympics, we need to sit down and talk.
Dr. Huang, thank you for coming to our program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you for watching Taiwan Outlook, and see you next week.